Welcome back to Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Last Known Classics. This is episode number 2180 and Doubleshot number 2074. I got two Marvel trades. Now, the interesting thing about these two trades is that both of them, this first one does collect issues come back in the 80s, but the series came back in the 1970s. The other one does collect a couple issues came back in the 70s. Alright, first one we have is The Defenders, Volume 7, Ashes, Ashes. Oh, and fun fact, did you know this is actually one of 4 epic collections released for Defenders? No, seriously, only 4. Yeah, there's a Volume 1, then there's this one, and the 2 that come after that one, and that's it. Yes, a series that I really wanted to review in epic collection form, and it's not many volumes. This book collects issues 110 to 125 and Avengers number 11. Now, why is it called Ashes, Ashes? Because basically from issues 110 to 124, this is the end of the original era for Defenders before we switch over to the new era, which will pretty much consume for the next, 20, but basically up until the final issue of the series. Yep. Now, J.M. DeMatteis, that's how he pronounces his last name, he is a majority writer with Don Perlin, who is also the artist, with Stephen Grant. Now, the other artist with Don Perlin is Stahl Bushman and Al Milgrom. Yep. By the way, this front cover art here, that is Brant Anderson. The back cover art, that's Don Perlin and Al Milgrom. Yes. Now, the first 2 issues here is a focus on Devil Slayer. Yep. That is pretty much in the way what these issues focus on. It's all focused on Devil Slayer. The Defenders do not play a role at all. It's mostly him trying to go through the motions, meeting various people. That's mostly what the issue is. And the next issue starts a subplot for Patsy Walker and Damon Hellstrom. Yep. Though for some reason the artist has had to draw Patsy Walker when she's close up. Reminds you of Catwoman. So this mostly is all about her per se. Yes. So it's 110 is about Devil Slayer, 111 is about Patsy Walker. It's her basically just trying to figure out who she is, and of course, about her demonic powers. And eventually her leading up to her encounter with, David Hellstrom. Of course, the ending leads into a story arc related to Squadron Supreme. The annual is the return of Nebula Man. Yes, Nebula Man. You're probably asking, Nick, who the heck is Nebula Man? Well, that's him right there. Nebula Man. He was part of a sequel storyline with the Squadron Sinister, who, in this story arc, they sold the planet to him. Because they couldn't rule it, they decided to sell it to him. Yes, this is a storyline that took up, I think it was issues 11 to, I think it was 12 to 15, I think it was. Yes. Squadron Sinister mostly put our evil versions of basically what the Squadron basically become. We have Hyperion, Dr. Spectrum, Nighthawk, who became a good guy, by the way. Let's see, there is also Princess Power. I'm trying to think who was part of this. Yeah, basically, now this group was assembled by, of all people, the Grand Master. Yep. And mostly this group basically served as a basis for several different versions of the Squadron Sinister. Oh, Squadron Supreme. Yes, the Squadron Sinister. The original. By the way, they've been disbanded since 2006. Their debut team was comprised of Dr. Spectrum, Hyperion, Nighthawk, and the Wizard. You're probably thinking, Wizard? Isn't there a superhero with the same name? Yes. This guy became a speed demon. He's actually an anti-hero now. Mostly put, he's kind of like an evil speedster. That's mostly put exactly what he is. Think of him as basically like a low-key Reverse Flash. That's pretty much what he is. He's basically Marvel's equivalent to the Flash. Oh, and fun fact, he is, in fact, one of the very few speedsters in the Marvel comic universe. The other being, I believe it was Speed. That's actually his name. It's actually Scarlet Witch's son. And Pietro Maximoff, a.k.a. the Wiz, a.k.a. Quicksilver. Nighthawk. Very noteworthy character this guy is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he became a member of the Defenders not long after his debut. Yeah, if you're curious, though, about when he joined the Defenders, it was pretty much in the way... It was, let's see. Actually, it was issues 13 and 14. Yeah, that's pretty much the way, like, that's where 13 is basically when Nebulon first showed up. Yeah, and this basically was his Fallout appearance. Yeah, it's almost like he became sort of a recurring foe for the Defenders. Yeah, though he did come back for issue 33. And basically, well, here's kind of the strange thing. They kind of brought him back. Yeah, so basically this annual is his death. Yep, Nebulon dies with this annual. Yeah, Dan DeMatteis did not create this character. This is a creation of Roy Thomas. Yeah, I think it was Roy Thomas, not mistaken, right? No, it was Lean Ween. Yes. He's the one who created them, and Jam just basically killed him off. Yep. Yeah, so they had to basically disagree them. And it's all deals with Nebulon Woman, and also the Defenders and the Defenders had to fight each other again over these two. And by the end of this, basically, Nebulon's dead. Yeah, he dies by the end of the issue. He turns into this. Turns out he actually is this type of creature. And he's done. Yeah. Yep, so, and that's the last episode of Nebulon. He's dead. I'm hoping to get into more of these Fender stuff, basically, between, like his early stuff. Next comes the Overmind issues. 112 at the start of this is also a sub. Now, basically, the lineup of this team is different from when it originally started. When it originally started back in the 70s, the lineup was Doctor Strange, the Hulk, Namor the Submariner, and the Silver Surfer. Though the Silver Surfer didn't really appear a lot in the book early on, he was pretty much a recurring character. Later on, by this point in time, Iceman is part of the team, along with a guy called the Gargoyle and the Beast. We even briefly have an appearance in here by, of all people, Vision and Scarlet Witch. And then we have the apparent return of Nighthawk. Yeah, Nighthawk apparently died in issue 106, and it's revealed a little bit later. The Overmind apparently, now, apparently Overmind is kind of, you think, like, oh, he's like the main. Now, Overmind actually appeared in the issues of Fantastic Four, just prior to this. Now, why in the world did he pop up in this book? Well, mostly put in a way, he becomes sort of a recurring character in this book. Mm-hmm. Overmind was sort of, how should I put this? He's a Stan Lee character. Yeah, it was sort of this story arc that basically that they had to do for the book. Yeah, and basically part of this book here. I'm looking up to see exactly what was his. So prior to this book, he had last appeared in the pages of Fantastic Four. Yep, that's where he previously showed up. So this whole story with him and the Defenders. Now they also had to deal with this alien entity that tried to take over the Squadron Earth, and he's supposedly like everyone thinks he's manipulating Kyle Raymond in the story arc. Well, President Kyle Raymond. Yeah, so they kind of turn Hyperion evil and a bunch of weird stuff. Also, the logo changes in the book. Now, let me show you what the cover of the band looked like. It looked like this, our comics group. And then basically by 113, that's dropped. Do not know the reason for it, but they kind of basically shrunk it down. So, this whole Overmind, now, this you think is Kyle Raymond, but I'll explain that soon. So, this whole story basically deals with him in the Squadron Supreme stuff. And the real villain is Null, the Living Darkness. Null, if you're curious though, is this like an original character related to, like, is this basically his debut? 103 it is, but yeah, so this creature didn't really appear very much. Nope. Part of the story arc, it actually appeared for just 2 appearances. And by 114, this is where the story wraps up. Yeah, so the whole thing of like fighting the Squadron Supreme and then have the team with them take on this creature. And of course, this guy who named Augustus Masters, thinking that Kyle Raymond is a traitor to Earth, he's a monster, ends up killing him, and it turns out this is actually not Kyle Raymond. This is actually an imposter. And it turns out, thanks to Overmind reawakening the memories of Nighthawk, it turns out that this Nighthawk is actually the President of the United States. Yep. Yeah, so despite the fact they think this is basically him, but not really. And you're thinking, what? What's going on here? Well, it could be due to a retcon, or probably because the fact that Aguirre-Sacasa looks completely different. They say he died like a few weeks ago. Oh, and don't worry, he does return. Are you probably thinking, when does he return? Let's see. I think he returns in the pages of Captain America. I think at some point he does return. Let's see. So yeah, he gets resurrected in issue of Sensational She-Hulk toward the end of the series. So yeah, so Kyle Raymond has to stay behind. Then we have a weird dimensional issue. Namor basically is like saying, what? He wears shoes. And it's a very weird issue. 116 continues a storyline with Patsy Walker and Damon Hillstrom. Kind of. So he got some good gorgeous artwork here. So Patsy reunites with Damon Hillstrom. Of course, they go on a journey together. Yep. Yeah, and then of course, basically, how about love? And of course, they have to with like some gift. Yeah. And this is basically just a quick multi-issue story arc dealing with, stuff related to Patsy and her. Basically, they, of course, by the way, the cover of issue 118 is also the back cover of the trade itself. Yep. So, yeah, so he goes undercover, finds out this is woman who's thinking he's married to him, but it turns out it's just a demon from his realm. And, this does lead him to, is also stuff with then we have basically 119, a very weird issue, and this elf showing up in this issue. Yeah, the elf person here is, he is kind of the reason why we don't have the original Defenders basically here anymore. Yeah. We have stuff basically like dealing with any of Doctor Strange issues. A revisiting of, Doctor Strange acting different. So they revisit stuff related to the beginnings Defenders. And, basically, you could say this issue is more dealing with the, end of the original era of Defenders and just lead to a brand new era. Yep. And we have a guy who's got some power to him, which this does lead into issue 122. Oh yeah, Iceman becomes official part of the team with issue 122. Yep, that he basically joins the roster with this very issue. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the reason why? Well, the reason why is because, well, actually the very next issue he joins, but this issue here in particular is the end of Patsy Walker and Damon Hilson part of the group. Why? Because they get married. Yep, they get married. He's like, it's better days. Make a team? Yeah, basically Beast at this point has got plans in his head to make this an official team because it's just a loose connection to people. By the way, Overmind, after 122, he is dropped from the book. Yeah, he is dropped from the book. Yeah, he is no longer a member of the team. Yeah, it's like he was dropped from the book for no explained reason. Yeah, that's most support of this, basically. And then, of course, you have Vision Scarlet Witch basically wrap up their time with the group. And, of course, there's a woman called Cloud. Yes, a woman named Cloud. Yeah, so basically, yeah, Cloud becomes member of Defenders no long after this. Yeah, so basically it's Super Secret Empire in here. No, not the crossover that happened a few years ago. Yep, so basically this time age takes the 4 primary defenders to the future because apparently they're the ones that caused the destruction of Earth. Yep. And then with 124, this is like the end. This is basically the beginning of this is basically the end. The finale for the original era. Yep, and where basically with the very next issue, make a decision. Right, in the next issue, with the very next issue 125, which is the covers done by Bill Sienkiewicz and Carl Potts, they proceed to leave the roster. And that was a prophecy told about this elf with a gun, which, by the way, this elf never appeared again. Moondragon becomes part of the team too. Yeah, 125 sees Angel and Iceman join the roster with this issue along with Moondragon. While the Founding Four leave the team. Yeah, Mad Dog basically pop up here. Mad Dog is Patsy Walker's first husband. And, well, with this issue in particular, this is where Defenders become an official team recognized by the U.S. government. Yeah, that's pretty much what this book is. It's the end of an era. Yep. You can think of it as basically disbanding the original roster of the team. Well, you could basically think of it as just reformatted the team. Also, the cover of 125 has the tagline, "The New Defenders." 124 was the last one that had this title, and then 125, this beautiful cover, this was the issue where they changed the title to New Defenders, and they remained that for the rest of the series. Well, for this volume anyways. When it was brought back in 2001, they basically went back to the original Defenders in that title. This book is fantastic. I love it. I like this book a 10 out of 10. It's pure classic stuff here. Alright, next up is a small book we have is Marvel's Ant-Man the Wasp. There is a couple issues I'm not going to discuss in here because I've discussed it before. Marvel Premiere, 40 to 48. First, we have Avengers Origins Ant-Man the Wasp, written by Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa, with Stephen Hans the artwork. Also, Ant-Man Large in Life by William Connor Pilgrim, and Ant-Man the Wasp Living Legends, done by Ralph Macchio and Andre Matteo. Avengers Origins, it's basically a modernized retelling of basically Hank Pym and the Wasp, like early years in the comics back in the 60s. It's a modernized retelling of it, but with no cell phones, no nothing. Basically, it gives more of a, how should I put this? It gives more basically of a reason why that Janet works with Hank. Because if you read the original issue, when she first met Hank, they only encounter her once. She's bored, goes off. Here, we basically kind of retool that, and we expand it to a full-page story. It's basically a retelling of basically, how they first became an item. It's a really good one-shot. In the case of Ant-Man Large in Life, it's a focus, I think it's focused on Hank Pym. Yeah, it's focused on Hank Pym. And it came out during a period of time when the Ant-Man ongoing series is publishing. Well, basically during his relaunch anyways. Yes. And you can kind of think of this as, but this book actually, look at the suit. Yeah, this is basically an adaptation of, it's like a, let's see, Ant-Man Large in Life. I believe this is set in the MCU, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is basically the first appearance of Hank Pym. This is basically MCU comic. Excuse me. That's pretty much what it is, and it's basically Hank Pym's early Avengers, which of course is really good. I thoroughly enjoy this one shot. The Marvel premiere stuff, it just basically, is mostly just Scott Lang and, Scott Lang's first time as, his or basically how he becomes, basically his two-part origin of how he becomes Ant-Man. Ouch. Damn it. Yeah, and as this book, it's 616. Yeah, it's just a team-up story between, Ant-Man and the Wasp. And basically, in a way, the big thing about this one-shot is that it reveals the real name of the living laser. Yeah. Living eraser. Yep, that's mostly what this issue is. Just dealing with basically that. But this book, really good. I get this book a 9.5 out of 10. If you're basically curious about Ant-Man stuff, Ant-Man the Wasp, check this book out. They probably did this because of the movie. Yeah, probably because of the movie. The first one, the second one anyways. Okay, so yes, that is pretty much a particular view. Next up is going to be more Super Snap, but just a couple episodes, and do another Comic Corner, and then pretty much right after that, it will be no more smartphone. Okay, next video. Bye.